And now it's time for another Dice Tower review with Mike Vincent.
Hello everyone, thank you for watching and welcome back. This week we're going to do something a little different and we're going to take a break from looking at the regular player cards from different expansions, and today we're going to continue our look at Season 1 of the Nightmare decks. So this takes the 3 encounters from the core set and removes some cards and adds in some rather nasty cards to make them much more challenging. It's worth noting that this is for veteran players who have most of the expansions so that they have a wide array of player cards to work from. So it's worth noting that if you only have a few expansions, you probably want to hold off on playing these Nightmare decks. However, if you've been collecting for a while, you've been playing lots, and you feel you're up for a challenge, then I highly recommend you check out these Nightmare decks. So today we're going to take a look at Journey Along the Anduin, and this is sort of a review, but also I'm going to go through and give you some suggestions and let you know about some of the cards that I found useful. There's 3 new monster cards to look at, 3 new treachery cards, and 2 new locations. So I'll go through each card and give you some suggestions of cards you may want to consider to help you get through. So let's jump in and take a look at Journey Along the Anduin Nightmare version. Okay, so here we have the setup card for Journey Along the Anduin for the Nightmare deck. It says you are playing Nightmare mode. All troll enemies gain the text cannot have attachments. If the encounter deck is empty at any time, shuffle the encounter discard pile back into the encounter deck. So this is significant as the first stage of the quest, you do have to encounter a hill troll. And the first time you played it in the core set, perhaps you would just play a forest snare on him and just pick away at him until he was dead and you couldn't do anything. Well, Fantasy Flight has gone back to the drawing board and stopped players from using this strategy. So if your plan the first time around was to use a forest snare, this time you're going to have to come up with something different, and you're going to have to suffer some attacks, most likely from the hill troll. So worth keeping in mind that this is in play during the entire encounter. Okay, so here's our first enemy card for Journey Along the Anduin, and this would be the Brown Water Rats. Brown Water Rats have 1 engagement cost, 1 threat, 1 attack, and 1 defense. This is a creature and a rat and reads brown water rats cannot be damaged. Yes, you read that correctly. So these guys are going to be sticking around and there's really no way to do any damage, whether through regular attacking or direct damage, to kill the brown water rats. Now it does have forced if the players are on stage 3 and all remaining enemies have the printed rat trait, discard brown water rats from play. They also have a shadow effect. Attacking enemy cannot be damaged this round. So with the brown water rats then, these are guys that are going to come out. They have a very low engagement cost, so they're going to engage with you, and likely they're going to continue to attack you every round until you finally get to the 3rd stage, get rid of all the other enemies, and then the brown water rats will disappear. So they're very non-threatening in that their attack is very low with 1, but where this can get really annoying is their continued use of shadow effects. So let's take a look at a few cards we can use to deal with the brown water rats to make them less of a nuisance, because that's really what this card is. It's not going to kill you in any devastating manner, but it's going to be just a persistent annoyance throughout the entire quest. So here's a few suggestions. Okay, so the first strategy to deal with these rats is to just have them not be able to attack you round after round. And so being able to bring along lore and bring along some of these traps is going to come in handy for just negating the effects of the brown water rats. So I recommend bringing the forest snare, so you can attach to an enemy engaged with a player and the attached enemy cannot attack. So that's going to shut down the brown water rats and stop them from being able to get you with shadow cards every turn. The other potential option, if you can make it work, is the ranger spikes. So if you play ranger spikes into the staging area and then you happen to draw a rat, well, if unattached, ranger spikes to the next eligible enemy for the staging area, players do not make engagement checks against attached enemy, and attached enemy gets -2 threat. So if you happen to play ranger spikes into the staging area and you do draw a brown water rat, well, it's going to contribute no threat for the rest of the game and is not going to engage you, so you don't have to worry about attacks. So lore is certainly a sphere worth considering for this quest, as both of these are going to come in handy. Now it is worth noting that it said attachments cannot be played on troll enemies, but fortunately it says nothing about rat enemies. So both of these are viable options for shutting down the attack of the brown water rats. So the other strategy for dealing with the brown water rats then is to cancel the shadow effects of the attack. You're really not going to have to worry about that one attack. You will easily be able to block that or absorb the one damage, but you do have to worry about shadow effects, and so I think the Dunedain Watcher, Balin, and Hasty Stroke are 3 cards you can bring along to help deal with these shadow effects. So with the Dunedain Watcher response, you can discard the Dunedain Watcher from play to cancel the shadow effect of a card just triggered. So if the rat attacks and it has a particularly nasty shadow effect, you can just get rid of it that way. Balin, of course, pay 1 resource from Balin's resource pool to cancel a shadow effect just triggered during an attack. So this is another way where you can get rid of a really nasty shadow effect. The only problem is then you do have to deal another shadow card to the rat. So this isn't going to get rid of all shadow effects, but perhaps you can absorb it depending on what the effect is and where you are at the time. And of course, always nice is Hasty Stroke for a cost of 1, cancel a shadow effect just triggered during combat. So my 2 recommendations then is to play LotR and try and shut down the rats with traps to stop them from attacking, or bring along some shadow cancellation. And those are your probably 2 best bets. And of course, once you make it to stage 3, kill the other enemies and the brown rats will disappear and you will have won the encounter. All right, our next enemy card is the Marshland Outlaws. These guys have an engagement cost of 21, have 2 threat, 2 attack, 2 defense, but a whopping and very annoying 8 hit points. They also read, if you are engaged with this enemy, you cannot attack or deal damage through effects to enemies with a title other than Marshland Outlaws. Also has a shadow effect, raise your threat by X. X is the amount of damage dealt by this attack. So the Marshland Outlaws can be very annoying, especially in stage 1 when you are trying to get rid of the hill troll. If the hill troll is engaging you and hitting you very hard, there's no way for you to fight back and kill that hill troll until you've taken out the Marshland Outlaws. This is easier said than done, of course, because they have 8 hit points and 2 defense. So we always found these guys to be really annoying, quite frustrating. They have a fairly low engagement cost of 21, and so there's a few tips again that we can use for the Marshland Outlaws. And let's take a look and see a few cards that can help you take out the Marshland Outlaws. Okay, so here are 3 different cards for sort of 3 different strategies for dealing with the Marshland Outlaws. The first of which we just talked about was Ranger Spikes. Again, this is a trap, and so if the Marshland Outlaws come into the staging area, the only way their effect takes place is when they are engaged with the player. So as long as they aren't engaged with you, if they're tied up in the staging area, then you are free to attack other enemies and don't have to worry about the Marshland Outlaws. So the nice thing about this is that you can play Ranger Spikes. If you do draw a Marshland Outlaws, it will attach to them and they will just sit in the staging area. You don't have to worry about their 2 threat because the Ranger Spikes will reduce that. So they will simply sit in the staging area, not contribute their threat, and you don't have to worry about their effect. So that's one way you can deal with them. Of course, the Rivendell Blade is certainly going to help you kill them if you do have to engage them and have other pressing enemies you're hoping to take care of. The Rivendell Blade is nice because it will reduce their defense by 2. They have a defense of 2, so this will give them 0 defense and will allow you to quickly attack perhaps with multiple attackers and whittle down those 8 hit points so you can kill them and move on to more pressing enemies like hill trolls. So the combat option and something worth considering is the Rivendell Blade, and you may want to attach this to someone like Legolas or Glorfindel, probably Spirit Glorfindel. The third card, which you can do if you are playing Spirit, is a Light in the Dark. This has a cost of 2 and reads, choose an enemy engaged with a player, return that enemy to the staging area. So if you are engaged with a hill troll and you have to engage the Marshland Outlaws, you could play a Light in the Dark, bounce the Marshland Outlaws back to the staging area, and then continue to either attack the troll and kill it, or perhaps you want to bounce the troll back to the staging area and kill the Marshland Outlaws to get rid of them so you don't have to worry about their effect. So whether you're playing LotR or Tactics or Spirit, you have some options for dealing with this particularly tricky card, the Marshland Outlaws. So the third new enemy we have to worry about in this quest is the Anduin Troll Spawn. Anduin Troll Spawn have an engagement cost of 26. They have 2 threat, 4 attack, 3 defense, and 5 hit points. So pretty well rounded in their combat ability. It reads, and this is a troll enemy, if there is no hill troll in play, Anduin Troll Spawn gains Surge. That's gross. I hate Surge. It is always frustrating. And this also has the forced effect at the beginning of the combat phase. Anduin Troll Spawn engages a player engaged with a hill troll. So this means if you have the hill troll in play and you're engaged with him, it doesn't matter. The Anduin troll spawn is going to come along and you're going to have another 4 attack, 3 defense, and 5 hit points to worry about. So let's take a look at a few cards that we can use to negate the Anduin troll spawn. Okay, so you're going to notice a nice array of tactics cards here as possibilities for dealing with the Anduin troll spawn. And let's say we're in the worst case scenario where the Anduin troll spawn has engaged you, or at least is about to engage you, and you also have a hill troll in play engaged with you. So obviously there's something like Baragond you would have with a Spear of the Citadel to do damage, or Gondorian Spearman with a Spear of the Citadel, but of course you're probably going to be wanting to block and doing damage that way to the hill troll. So some nice options for the Anduin troll spawn is the Rivendell Blade. Once again, the Anduin troll spawn has a pretty high defense at 3 with 5 hit points, and so anything you can do, and our strategy if you're dealing with the troll spawns, was to try and negate that high defense of 3 by doing direct damage or lowering defense. So the Rivendell Blade, you can lower its defense by 2, making it 1 and making it much more easy to do damage. Swift Strike is an option. This is an event with a cost of 2, and so when you declare a defender, you can deal 2 damage to the attacking enemy. So that's going to whittle it down from 5 hit points to 3 hit points. The Goblin Cleaver is another option. So you can exhaust a weapon card attached to a hero you control to choose an enemy engaged with you and deal 2 damage to that enemy. So there's another way to bypass the defense and do direct damage. Or if you're able to catch the Anduin troll spawn before it engages you, if you have Hail of Stones, if you have enough allies and heroes and you only have a few enemies to deal with, this can be a nice option for just getting rid of an enemy. So you can exhaust X characters to deal X damage to an enemy in the staging area. So if you do have 5 allies or a combination of allies and heroes, if you can exhaust 5 of them, you can just kill the Anduin troll spawn and not have to worry about him anymore while he's in the staging area. So I think these are all viable tactics cards to try and bypass that defense and take out the Anduin troll spawn as quickly as possible. It's worth noting again that a Light in the Dark could be used to bounce the Anduin troll spawn back to the staging area so you can deal with him later. Alright, so there's the enemies. Let's take a look at our location cards.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.